Does an unsettling sense sometimes tell you that the true battleground of your life is not found in external adversaries or worldly challenges, but in the unseen landscapes within your own mind? This profound insight cuts to the very core of human struggle, compelling a radical shift in perspective. Carl Jung, with his deep wisdom regarding the psyche's architecture, recognized that while external dangers are real, the most insidious and destructive threats often originate from unconscious forces lurking within our own mental terrain. Society, prone to fixating on visible threats like natural disasters or malicious individuals, frequently overlooks the far more pervasive and debilitating dangers of unchecked complexes, ego inflation, and the unaddressed shadow forces that can silently sabotage our lives, erode our relationships, and plunge us into profound psychological distress. To remain oblivious to these internal perils, to attribute all suffering to external circumstances, is a deeply perilous path that ultimately prevents authentic self-mastery and genuine well-being. You may find yourself battling recurring patterns of anxiety, self-sabotage, inexplicable anger, or a persistent sense of unfulfillment despite outwardly favorable conditions. This troubling repetition, the feeling that an invisible force is working against you from within, is often your deepest intuition signaling the presence of these internal dangers. This video is not about fear-mongering. It is an immersive journey into the most treacherous psychological territories within your own mind. A practical manual to identify, interpret, and ultimately navigate these hidden perils to liberate yourself. Prepare yourself, for the wisdom you are about to receive promises a transformative unveiling of your inner world and the true path to psychological resilience and sovereignty. The first principle we must grasp, often obscured by the ego's desire for control, is the principle of the autonomous complex. This dictates that powerful clusters of emotionally charged ideas and images, often formed from past traumas or unresolved conflicts, can operate largely outside conscious control within your psyche. These complexes act like independent, semi-autonomous personalities, hijacking your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, often leading you to act in ways contrary to your conscious intentions. This is not simply a bad mood. It is a hidden internal entity that can seize control, driving you into cycles of self-defeating behavior and undermining your conscious will. This insidious principle connects intimately with Jung's central concept of the complex, which he called the via regia to the unconscious. When a complex is activated, it can effectively possess the ego, causing disturbances in consciousness, memory, and voluntary action. Consider the ancient Greek concept of hubris, leading to nemesis. A proud individual becomes possessed by an inflated sense of self, leading to inevitable downfall. The danger here lies not in external punishment, but in the internal complex, the inflated ego's shadow that autonomously steers the individual towards self-destruction, demonstrating the profound peril of unintegrated psychological forces. In the contemporary landscape, this principle manifests with chilling clarity. Someone might have a mother complex that causes them to perpetually seek approval or rebel against authority figures, even when consciously they desire independence. A power complex might drive an individual to constantly seek control in relationships, sabotaging intimacy despite a conscious desire for connection. Even seemingly minor events can trigger a complex, leading to disproportionate emotional outbursts or inexplicable self-sabotaging actions that leave the individual bewildered and powerless, as if an unseen hand has guided their unfortunate choices. To truly identify this dangerous internal behavior, Pay rigorous attention to moments when your reactions feel out of proportion, when you act against your own better judgment, or when specific triggers consistently lead to repetitive, unhelpful patterns. Ask, what feeling-toned idea is taking over me right now? What splinter psyche is driving this action or thought? Begin to observe these complexes without judgment, noting their triggers and their effects. This disciplined self-observation is the first step in disarming their autonomous power and reclaiming your conscious control. The second shadow principle, often creating immense suffering and disconnection, is the principle of the unintegrated shadows, destructive projections. This posits that the most dangerous aspects of our mind are often those we deny in ourselves: our greed, envy, anger, weakness, or fear. Rather than integrating these darker traits, we unconsciously project them onto others, seeing them as the source of all evil, blame, or negativity in our lives. This creates a distorted external reality, fuels paranoia, fosters bitter resentments, and prevents genuine self-awareness, trapping us in a constant battle with externalized versions of our own unacknowledged inner demons. This principle directly relates to Jung's core concept of the shadow and its dangerous potential when left unconscious. When we refuse to own our shadow, it gains autonomous power and is projected outwards, creating conflict and misunderstanding. Recall the ancient alchemical process of nigredo, the blackening, where base matter had to be confronted and transformed before true gold could be made. Similarly, if we refuse to confront the blackness within, it will poison our perception of the outside world. The danger lies not in the shadow itself, but in its unconsciousness, leading to a perpetual state of conflict with an external world that merely reflects our own disowned parts. In modern society, this manifests with heartbreaking frequency. Someone who denies their own capacity for judgment might perpetually see others as critical and condemning, leading to social anxiety and isolation. An individual unwilling to admit their own manipulative tendencies might constantly accuse others of trying to control them, destroying trust in relationships. Even in political discourse, the extreme demonization of opposing viewpoints often reflects a collective projection of a denied shadow, leading to intractable conflict rather than constructive dialogue. To overcome this insidious internal danger, begin by consciously identifying the qualities you most intensely dislike or condemn in others. Ask, could this trait, in some form, also exist within me? Am I projecting my own unacknowledged shadow onto this person or situation? Practice radical self-honesty, courageously acknowledging the full spectrum of your human nature, both light and dark. Engage in shadow work through journaling, active imagination, or therapy to integrate these disowned aspects. This conscious reclamation of your projected shadow will dissolve the distorted external reality, allowing you to see others and yourself with greater clarity and compassion. The third shadow principle, often leading to profound delusion and isolation, is the principle of ego, inflation, and identification with the archetype. This posits that when the ego becomes overwhelmed by an influx of unconscious content, particularly from powerful archetypes like the hero, the sage, the lover, or the king, queen, it can mistakenly identify itself with that archetypal power. This leads to an exaggerated sense of self-importance, grandiosity, and a loss of touch with human reality, causing severe distortions in judgment and an inability to perceive one's own limitations. This is one of the most dangerous states of mind, as it breeds delusional certainty and often leads to catastrophic falls. This deep-seated principle is closely linked to Jung's concept of inflation, where the ego swells beyond its proper bounds, believing itself to be something more than it is. It is the ego taking on the qualities of the self before it is ready for true integration. Consider the Greek myth of Icarus, who, inflated by his father's ingenious wings and heedless of warnings, flew too close to the sun, leading to his fatal plunge. His hubris, his identification with a power beyond his human capacity, perfectly symbolizes the danger of ego inflation, a self-made catastrophe born from a lack of humble self-awareness. In modern society, this manifests profoundly in various contexts. A person who experiences a spiritual awakening might become inflated, believing themselves to be a guru or prophet, dismissing all criticism and losing touch with practical realities. A sudden rise to power or fame can lead an individual to believe they are infallible, leading to reckless decisions and the alienation of those who dare to challenge them. Even in seemingly ordinary life, an individual might become so identified with their intelligence or talent that they dismiss all differing opinions, becoming rigid and incapable of learning, their ego bloated by unconscious identification with an archetype of brilliance. To liberate yourself from this restrictive pattern, cultivate a profound sense of humility and a grounded connection to reality. When you experience moments of intense insight, power, or recognition, pause and ask, is this truly me, or am I identifying with a larger force? Am I still connected to my human limitations and the wisdom of others? Practice self-deflation by engaging in mundane tasks, seeking constructive criticism, and regularly connecting with individuals who can offer a balanced perspective. This conscious commitment to remaining grounded will protect your ego from dangerous inflation, fostering genuine wisdom rather than delusional grandiosity. If you're finding this profound exploration of internal dangers to be insightful and believe this message resonates with your quest for deeper self-awareness and psychological resilience, subscribe to the channel and enable notifications so you don't miss any content that will further empower your journey towards inner mastery. If you feel a persistent yearning to truly comprehend the hidden landscapes of your own mind, to finally move beyond unconscious patterns and cultivate a life of profound authenticity and grounded presence, know that this inner calling is not a fantasy. It's your authentic self preparing for a profound liberation, a reclaiming of inherent sovereignty, and a truly integrated psyche. There are potent principles and practices that can illuminate this path of autonomy and self-affirmation, empowering you to live with an unshakable clarity and a profound sense of purpose. In the pinned comment, we have made available resources that were carefully crafted for souls like yours, ready to experience their most profound personal revolution. We have begun to unveil the profound truths about the most dangerous places within your own mind, moving beyond superficial self-help to the core dynamics of psychological peril. You've seen how autonomous complexes, destructive shadow projections, and ego inflation can silently sabotage your life, erode your relationships, and lead to profound suffering. But these are merely the foundational insights. Now we delve into the more complex, yet equally vital, principles that, once understood, unlock even deeper levels of personal protection and wisdom, allowing you to navigate your inner world with courage and discernment. The coming insights are not for the faint of heart. They require a courageous willingness to confront the deepest aspects of your own psyche. The fourth principle, often camouflaged by seemingly rational thought, is the principle of unconscious self-deception and avoidance of truth. This posits that the mind's most dangerous capacity is its ability to construct elaborate justifications, rationalizations, and willful blindness to avoid confronting uncomfortable truths about oneself, one's motivations, or one's reality. This internal deception, driven by fear, shame, or the ego's need to maintain a comfortable narrative, creates blind spots that lead to repeated mistakes, unlearned lessons, and a profound inability to grow. The danger lies not in external lies, but in the internal ones we tell ourselves, which trap us in cycles of delusion. This perspective challenges the ego's capacity for objective self-assessment, emphasizing its inherent bias towards self-preservation. It is intimately tied to Jung's concept of the personal myth when it becomes rigid and resists new information, or the shadow of intellectual dishonesty. Consider the archetype of the fool or blind seer who, despite having eyes, refuses to see what is plainly before them. In narratives, characters who stubbornly refuse to acknowledge undeniable truths about themselves or their situations often invite catastrophic consequences. Their downfall, a direct result of their own internal self-deception, demonstrating the profound danger of avoiding internal truth. This profound principle plays out in myriad ways in contemporary life, often unnoticed. Someone might repeatedly enter dysfunctional relationships, constantly rationalizing the unhealthy patterns, because they unconsciously avoid the truth of their own complicity or unmet needs. An individual might fail to achieve their goals, always, finding external excuses rather than confronting their own procrastination or fear of success, even in seemingly minor daily choices. A persistent pattern of avoiding feedback or dismissing criticism indicates a dangerous internal mechanism of self-deception, preventing growth and perpetuating limiting behaviors. To embrace the principle of unconscious self-deception, cultivate a radical commitment to personal truth, however uncomfortable, when you find yourself rationalizing, defending, or avoiding a difficult insight. Pause and ask, what truth am I afraid to see about myself right now? What narrative am I desperately clinging to? Actively seek out honest feedback from trusted sources and examine your own patterns of defensiveness. Practice acknowledging your mistakes and weaknesses without judgment, recognizing that true strength lies in embracing your full reality. This conscious act of relentless self-honesty will dismantle the internal mechanisms of self-deception, allowing you to see yourself and your world with unflinching clarity. Finally, we encounter the most profound and often the most resistant shadow principle, the principle of the collective, unconscious's destructive pull. This posits that beyond our personal complexes and shadow, there exist powerful, primordial archetypal patterns in the collective unconscious patterns of hatred, violence, scapegoating, or mass delusion that can seize an unprepared individual or a susceptible collective. While these forces are universal, the danger arises when one's conscious ego is weak, unintegrated, or disconnected from its ethical center, making it highly susceptible to becoming a vessel for these destructive collective energies, leading to acts of profound cruelty or mass irrationality. This intricate principle transcends the personal and touches upon the profound influence of the transpersonal, emphasizing that we are not solely isolated individuals. It is the ultimate danger in Jungian psychology, the risk of psychic infection or mass psychosis when the ego loses its ethical mooring. Jung warned of humanity's susceptibility to such forces when the conscious mind is fragmented or disconnected from the self. Consider the historical examples of totalitarian regimes, genocides, or mass hysteria, where individuals, often ordinary people, became instruments of unthinkable cruelty, driven by a collective force that seemed to obliterate individual conscience. The danger lies in the potential for the individual psyche to be overwhelmed and possessed by the darker, unintegrated aspects of the collective unconscious. This manifests in countless ways in contemporary life, often leaving others bewildered by inexplicable cruelty or irrational group behavior. Someone who constantly participates in online hate mobs or engages in relentless dehumanization of the other might be unconsciously possessed by a collective shadow archetype, becoming a conduit for destructive energies. Individuals who are easily swayed by charismatic but dangerous ideologies, losing their critical thinking and ethical judgment, are susceptible to this collective pull. Even seemingly benign group dynamics can become dangerous when individual conscience is surrendered to the collective unconscious's darker impulses. To fully integrate the principle of the collective unconscious's destructive pull, cultivate a strong, differentiated ego connected to its ethical center. Practice critical thinking and discernment, questioning narratives that promote hatred, dehumanization, or simplistic solutions to complex problems. Develop a robust sense of individual responsibility, refusing to surrender your conscience to any group or ideology. Engage in practices that strengthen your connection to your own unique self, your inner moral compass, and your capacity for compassion. This conscious commitment to individual integrity and ethical awareness will serve as a powerful bulwark against the most dangerous collective psychic infections, allowing you to remain sovereign within your own mind and act as a force for good. In the world, in the comments below, share which of these 5 principles of inner danger resonates most deeply with your own experience, and what small, actionable step you plan to take this week to explore or integrate it. If this deep exploration of the mind's hidden perils and the profound journey of psychological resilience speaks to your soul, subscribe to the channel to continue unlocking the intricate secrets of the human psyche and cultivating a more profound understanding of self-mastery. Your like is a powerful affirmation that this knowledge holds true value, and a clear signal that this journey of inner illumination is one worth continuing together.